Let me tell you a secret about the Borderlands movie. It could have been so much better. Borderlands should have been made like 10 years ago. It really should have been. It comes from Eli Roth. It has a really all-star cast. It looks a lot like the games. If you're a fan of the games, especially the original one from 2009, you might get more mileage out of this movie than I did. How do I put this? The actual costumes and all of that look great. They capture the look of the characters perfectly. Lilith looks like Lilith, down to the really crazy, stupid hair that they sort of make a joke about. Roland looks like Roland. Krieg looks like Krieg. Tiny Tina looks like Tiny Tina. However, that's where it stops looking like Pandora, looking like Borderlands. Borderlands, the original game, is cel-shaded. It has a visual aesthetic. This movie, I hate crapping on CG artists because they're overworked, they're underpaid, all of that. This movie, everything looks too smooth. Everything looks like smooth. It doesn't look like it should, especially when things are in motion. When there's action in Borderlands, it just falls flat. It just, the effects, the visuals, all of it fall flat, and it's just aggravating to watch to go from the video game to this. The script is bad. The dialogue is hard to listen to. The performances from the actors themselves are good to great. They do a good job. They do a great job with the absolute just crap that they're given from this script. The story is meandering. The plot does not... It's very coincidental. Everything happens and it's like, oh, well, this happened and then this happened and oh, but you didn't see this coming. But not in like the way that like an actual plot with rising action that's going from Act 1, Act 2, Act 3, all of that would actually work. It is just coincidental. It feels just like it's not fully formed or fully fleshed out, which is crazy to think because from the WGA, there's like 8 different writers that are listed on this film. That's not counting Craig Mazin, who dropped his name from the screenplay. So that's like 9 people that worked on the screenplay. That's way too many cooks in the kitchen for a movie like this. I went and saw it at an advanced press screening at the Alamo Drafthouse. They showed trailers for like classic 70s and 80s science fiction movies, like Star Wars knockoffs and stuff like that. That is the aesthetic that this movie was going for. It tries to sort of be like a Guardians of the Galaxy type throwback to that era, but it doesn't have any of the heart. The characters just kind of slam together, and it's like, oh, cool, you're expecting them to be friends now. But there was nothing along the way that showed like, oh, these people should be friends. It's more just like, here's the action scenes, here's some emotion, here's the action scenes, here's some emotion. Now they're best friends, and it's none of it works together because the dialogue is robotic. Claptrap, the robot, is the one with the least robotic dialogue, which is crazy to think. Jack Black does a fine job as Claptrap, by the way. Claptrap is the best looking thing in the film. Part of it, I think, is at least a robot. Some of it's CGI, whatever. They look great. But the action in the film, where the film really works, and there's about like a 20-minute sequence in the middle of the film where it really feels like, oh, I'm actually watching a Borderlands movie, and it feels like you're zooming out of the first-person view of the video games into a third-person view, and you're watching this co-op action, and you're the viewer here. So you zoom out, and you're in this third-person, the normal view of a movie, and it feels like Borderlands, but it doesn't last. It doesn't last at all, and you get into this third act that just has these mind-blowingly dumb decisions with either CG, changing the character's backstory, changing the character's powers, and just kind of bait and switching the audience, and it just feels lazy. All of it feels lazy. It feels coincidental. It feels like a movie written by 9 different people. That's really what you can draw to, is that this movie was written by 9 different people. There are 9 different people that worked on it, and that there's no specific vision. And it just also, for fans of the video game, I don't want to bring this up in a normal review, but for something that's adapted, that has a lore that's as deep and as wide as Borderlands, you change the backstories of the characters fundamentally, including the main character of the Borderlands series. You change Lilith's backstory to this thing that's sort of, oh, it's coincidental, she's actually from Pandora, blah, 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 all of this. And you have a storyline from the first game or from the pre-sequel or whatever the hell it's called from Borderlands. You have all of this. You have a villain, Handsome Jack, that you could have used, and instead you use Atlas. You have all of these winks and nods and stuff to characters and stuff, cameos from the games, but it just feels like they didn't actually play the games, or somebody didn't hand them, hey, here's, you know, the plot line for the video games. And it's just maddening to watch because there's so much here that could have been so good, and it just falls flat. And I hate to say it, but this movie is not worth a watch in theaters. Go check it out in streaming if you really want to watch it, if you're a big fan of Borderlands, because outside of that, this movie is a mess, and the performances are good. The actors do an admirable job with the material they're given, but they just don't get enough to work with, and it just all adds to this mess of a movie that should have been so good, that should have been better than this, that should have came out 10 years ago, all of that. And it should feel like those love letters to the 70s and 80s Star Wars knockoffs, science fiction films, and it doesn't. And that's a shame, because Borderlands should have and could have been better, with more capable hands, either less people writing the script, or a more capable director that knew the lore, that cared about the lore, instead of just what we got. Borderlands releases in theaters this Friday. You can go see it for yourself if you'd like to. I don't recommend watching it unless it's on streaming or something like that if you really want to watch it, but it's just kind of a mess.